Spence versus Crawford, strategies, plans, ways how they may attack each other. Hold on a second. Close the door. All right, sorry about that, but it's just that it seems as though the moment you start to do something constructive in this place, real nonsense start to begin. So I'll make sure I can get as quiet as possible out here in the back as I started talking some boxing with you guys. I am what you need. If you guys don't know my channel, well, here it is. I'm what you need. And we're going into Spence versus Crawford. We're going to talk a little bit about not necessarily strategies or plans, but just certain things that both fighters might do on the night of the fight. We're coming up to the fight, so I really want to talk a little bit more about it and explain to you guys what I think both fighters may be doing. I was watching Terrence Crawford in his workout, and he showed a number of different things that he would be doing in the fight, or at least what he's training for, and he's rehearsing. Before I get any further into this, I just want to give some praise to the Most High God. So I'm going to read Psalms chapter 20, verses 1 and 2. It says, "In times of trouble, may God respond to your cry. May the God of Israel keep you safe from all harm. May he send you help from his sanctuary and strengthen you from Jerusalem." I just wanted to share that. These are words from me to you guys. And well-wishing, shalom, all peace be unto you, assalamu alaikum, all of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Again, it's Proverbs chapter 20, verses 1 and 2. You guys can check it out when you got time. So, Crawford versus Spence. This is what I'm going to talk about. First of all, Terrence Crawford actually has a longer reach than Errol Spence. I think Terrence Crawford has a 74-inch reach. I think he's 5'9". Errol Spence has a 72-inch reach. I think he is 5'9" as well. Yeah, obviously he's taller than Crawford. Both guys about the same size, as we all know now. Even though Crawford moved up in weight to 147 pounds, and Errol Spence came down in weight for 147 pounds, and Errol Spence is a big welterweight. Even so, they're around about the same size. So let me explain to you guys what I think could transpire in this fight, what I think most definitely will transpire in this fight, and I think how the fight will actually pan out. First of all, from the workout that Terrence Crawford had in Las Vegas. What is going on? Why am I yawning? Yeah, in Las Vegas, Nevada. I can tell you guys right now that Terrence Crawford, he's going to be stepping around Errol Spence. He's going to be using lead foot dominance in the southpaw stance. He's going to sometimes box Errol Spence in the orthodox stance. He's working on his jab and the strength and power of his jab. We saw that, the timing of his jab. He's also looking at his foot placement, where he places his feet so that he can get the strategic foot position. He's also working on when Errol Spence hooks him, what he would do, how he would try to step around Errol Spence. Of course, he's assuming that Errol Spence would come straight at him and wouldn't come off of angles. Errol doesn't do that. Errol comes off of angles. So I hope that Terrence is aware of that in his training. But yeah, nonetheless, you can see him stepping around. He wants to turn Errol. He wants to turn him a lot, keep him turning. And then we see him fighting on the outside. We see him using the jab. We see him using the lead right hand. Sometimes he's in the southpaw stance. Sometimes he's in the orthodox. Sometimes he shoots the right as a lead. Sometimes he shoots the left as a lead. So it's not necessarily that he's in one stance where he's using one hand as a jabbing hand. He might be in the opposite stance and use that same hand as a lead hand from the backhand position. So I saw all of those things. I saw him. I didn't see a whole lot of body work, but I'm sure he's going to be working on Errol's body as well. That would be something he's doing. His speed, his quickness, his sharpness. He's trying to keep the punches straight. I see him shooting a lot more straight punches than a lot of hooks. I'm sure he's still going to hook. And Terrence Crawford's strongest hand is his right hand. He hooks off the right hand. He mostly catches guys when he goes into the southpaw stance. He catches them with a check hook or a hook as they're coming in. So he catches guys as they're coming in. He's also very aggressive. He can fight and beat down a fighter. He's got good power. He's strong. He's very strong. So from what we saw in the training, this is what I think Terrence Crawford's approach to the fight is going to be. And then I'll explain to you what I think Errol's approach to the fight is going to be. And shout out to, I can't remember the name of the channel, but the guy was really making a lot of sense. He's a guy that boxes, and he was talking about how Errol Spence could win the fight. And I will want to go through that as well. But I want to start off with Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, I think, in this fight is going to, I mean, if you got it, you use it. He's going to use his reach as an advantage initially, all right, to try to deter Errol from closing the distance. And the reason why I say he's going to use his reach is because he's going to make Errol pay for real estate that he wants to come into. I don't think Terrence wants to initially, at least early in the fight, have Errol going off so quickly. You don't want Errol just coming in and saying, this is another day at the office. You know, you popping his jab, closing the distance down, working the body. You don't want Errol doing that, mixing up head, body, head, and he doesn't want Errol just getting in there and think he could just do whatever he wants and just start getting to work. So I think Terrence is going to use distance control. I think he's going to use his jab. I think he's going to use his lead hand to control. And I saw him doing different things with his lead hand, from pushing off, sometimes framing, sometimes checking the guy, you know, making sure that he's stepping off to the side of the guy's shoulder, outside on the weak side. I think he's going to try and stay weak side so he has escape ropes. I think if Errol tries to throw any hooks or anything, he's going to roll under, or he's going to step up across to the side where the hook can't catch him, and then he's going to counter Errol. So these are some of the things I think Terrence is going to do. He's going to try and make Errol pay for covering real estate. You can see Terrence is working on his pop as well as his power. He knocked back McIntyre with a straight left. And most of his shots are going to be straight shots because he has to shoot from distance. So he's not going to be as reckless. He's going to tighten up his shots. This is kind of like a Jose Benavidez, Terrence Crawford fight, in that he has to kind of keep himself not getting touched much. He has to try. It's not going to happen. I mean, he's going to get touched. He's going to get beat up, but he has something for that too. Where he's staying tight on the inside and he's stepping around Errol Spence. So he's going to look to try and step around Errol Spence. Now, that's kind of a hard thing to do because Sean Porter tried to do that, and Errol Spence started to get a beat on him, and Errol started to pivot with him and take away the angles. And remember, Errol Spence has sparked the likes of guys like Floyd Mayweather. So, I mean, Floyd Mayweather is the master at illusion and stepping around you and putting his feet in a different plane, all that kind of stuff. So if Errol sparred Floyd Mayweather, I think he gave him a black eye once early in his training camp. Trust me, he can get to Terrence Crawford. He's going to close that distance. No if, buts, or maybe. But in the meantime, Terrence Crawford, he's not trying to stay directly in front of Errol Spence, which is a very good idea. He's going to step around him. Even if he's in close with Errol Spence, he's going to look to step around him and throw off his shots where he thinks he's at an advantage where Errol Spence can't hit him. So he's going to be using those kinds of strategies, that sort of game plan. The other thing I think that Terrence is going to do, if let's say Errol's really still breaking him down, still closing the distance, I think Terrence is going to use the clinch game to lock up Errol to try and keep him from throwing his shots. And so that's another thing that he can use to buy time, kind of, slow down Errol, slow down the pace of the fight so that Errol's thinking a lot more about how he would close the distance. So I expect Crawford to be using clinches. I expect him to start off at least fighting from the outside. He usually does that. Will he be fighting off the back foot or the front foot? I'm not too sure. I think it would make sense for him to press the action and actually try to fight off the front foot, working behind his jab. And we saw him also pushing back McIntyre, pushing back the other guy, coming off the front foot, but off an angle so that he's stepping towards the weak side of Errol Spence. If Errol Spence obliges him and starts to step backwards, now he can kind of close the distance and do what he wants to do. So I think Terrence is looking at trying to fight from range at first and then closing the distance after and doing his stuff on the inside. And Terrence is a very good inside fighter. Again, lateral movements, stepping around a fighter. This is the thing that he's going to do. The thing about it is that's the same thing that Errol probably be doing as well. Errol's a guy that comes off of angles. He don't just press you. He press you from a certain side. He always tries to approach via your weak side. If you're an orthodox fighter, if you're a southpaw side fighter, he's going to go the opposite weak side. So some of the things I saw Terrence doing with his hands up, keeping his guard up and stuff, mirrors the things that Errol Spence actually does. So it's kind of interesting, the approach that Terrence is using. But Terrence having the longer reach, he could kind of keep himself more at bay, occupy Errol, use his jab to sort of, keep a jab in his face, keep a hand in his face, try to blind Errol as he's coming in. Of course, Errol, you have to assume that Errol's directly in front of him. Spence is going to have to pivot to stay. He's going to have to pivot to make sure he's facing Errol and keeping himself facing Errol all the time so that he can get that step on him. And if he can get lead foot dominance, he can slip off to the side or whatever. If he's in the southpaw position, if he's in the orthodox position, he may have to, pivot either towards Errol Spence's power left hand, but just far away enough, or he may want to spin back and pivot away from Errol's power hand towards his jabbing hand, but on the outside of his jabbing hand. So it's whatever he wants to do. But ultimately, in the end, I think Terrence is going to be trying to get more space in the beginning. I think he's going to try. He's not just going to go. He might try to push Errol back to keep Errol from coming forward initially. And we'll see how that works out with the battle of the jabs, because both of them are going to start off jabbing. It depends on what stance Terrence Crawford decides to come out in. If he's going to come out in orthodox or southpaw stance, I'm not too sure what stance he's going to come out in as well. But from at least the game plan, I think he would start off cautiously on the outside of Errol and use his reach as an advantage to get to Errol and keep Errol at bay. I think that's what he will be trying to do. Errol, on the other hand, also I saw that Terrence Crawford was slipping shots, moving different head slots, slipping the jab. They were doing a little like a drill where he was slipping the jab and then closing the distance. So I could see Terrence Crawford also trying to slip Errol's jab, trying to neutralize the jab, trying to counter his jab above and below. All right. Having said that, you do understand almost everything that I just said there Errol Spence will be doing. But the thing about Errol Spence is Errol has been doing it for a long time. But the thing about it is you never know. Terrence may be the one who's the aggressor initially to get a quicker start. Errol may be the one who actually is the one who's very defensive and actually boxing off the back foot. And Errol can do that. And there's a lot of things Errol can do. So it'll be interesting to see how they open. But these are the things that I know about Errol. Errol, like I said before, has a great base. He's really very stable. He's always in balance. And he can pivot like crazy. And that is a tremendous advantage you can have in boxing. So I expect Errol to come out trying to press the action initially, trying to close the distance initially, using some unique angles, but Terrence Crawford trying to keep him off balance, trying to keep him offset by using his footwork and just being a step ahead of him, trying to circle him. Errol will have to be patient, keep his composure, take his time, and close the distance on Errol Spence. Because Errol Spence don't want because Terrence Crawford don't want Errol to just be shooting his shots. He don't want him throwing a lot of punches. He wants him to make sure he's out of range and that he is not able to throw much of anything. So that's what Terrence Crawford probably be doing in the feel-out round, in the first round, second round. Obviously, Errol will catch up to him at some point, and then they will have to rumble. But Terrence Crawford will have to rumble in an intelligent way, not staying directly in front of Errol. But Errol doesn't stay directly in front of his opponent, so Terrence Crawford is going to have to figure out how that works. I don't think Errol's just going to go in there and wham, bam, slam you, man. The first thing I think Errol's going to try and do is touch Terrence Crawford. Make sure he can get his jab in. Once he gets his jab in, then everything else is going to be easy. I think it's the same thing with Crawford. Crawford probably tried to test out Errol, see if he can land something, anything on Errol, so that he can gauge the distance. And then he's going to try and keep Errol at bay and pick him apart from the outside somewhat, at least for the first 2 rounds, try and win one of those so he can get off the board early so he can really make the fight competitive. Because down the stretch, it's going to be a fight of attrition. Both guys will have made necessary adjustments to each other, kind of understand they're getting a rhythmic flow. I think they're going to start banging it out. But like the guy whose channel I can't remember, Errol shoots a lot more straighter shots than Crawford. And even his hooks are short, compact hooks. They're not these, big loopy shots that Terrence Crawford throws a lot of. So Terrence Crawford can't be wild, and he can't be throwing all of these big arcing shots. He's going to have to shorten up his shots if he's facing Errol Spence. Errol Spence is the more fundamentally sound fighter of the two. Errol's been doing all the fundamentally sound things. Crawford's been more plastic and flexible. But I do believe, if you're looking at who's the fundamentally sound of the two. Now, people say Errol's basic. I don't think Errol's basic at all. Particularly, his pivot work is not basic in any way, shape, or form. The way how he changes levels, the way how he can come off of different angles in front of you. There's nothing basic about that. I think what they mean is Errol's more fundamentally sound. I think of the two, I think Errol's more fundamentally sound. And I think that's what Errol's banking on, his consistency, his consistent body work, his relentless nature. I think that's what he's counting on to wear down Terrence Crawford in the later rounds. Terrence Crawford has to work hard on his cardio and just on his conditioning. Hasn't had to go. He hasn't had to go 12 rounds in any fight at welterweight. He stopped all his opponents. But in this case, I think this is a fight that's going to go the distance. And it's going to be a war of attrition. And the question is, I know Crawford likes to rumble, but in this case, he'll have to discipline himself so he doesn't rumble unless the conditions are favorable to him. But in this case, I think if he, just tries to turn up the volume like that, Errol's too composed. He's too clinical. Errol will take advantage of the fact that Crawford's trying to turn up the volume, and he's going to clinically break him down if he does that. So Crawford needs to stay focused, disciplined. If you're going to turn up the volume, make sure you turn it up sharp and clean, and short chopping shots. You try to do those long looping shots. Long looping shots for, a professional boxer, sometimes they work, Marcus McDonald versus Floyd Mayweather. But then once the adjustments are made by those fighters, then it actually works against you because they can get inside of your punches. Even if Crawford starts to walk him down, that's only going to be for a season. I think the aggressor in this fight is going to be Errol Spence. When all is said and done, Crawford's going to be the one fighting off the back foot. Errol will be looking to close the distance. Once he can get within range, he's going to try and touch Terrence Crawford. He's going to be the aggressor, I think, for the most part of the fight. I think he's going to be looking to accumulate punishment on Terrence Crawford, slow him down a bit, and just keep working his body, mixing it up. So Terrence Crawford's guessing what shots he's going to come with. Both guys are going to use feints. But I do think that of the two, unless Terrence Crawford hits Errol with something that gets his serious attention, and even then, Errol still continues to walk you down, because Errol's the one that will be hunting. Crawford's going to be the one, unless he can get Errol to truly respect his power, he's going to be the one being hunted. No matter what, he's going to be the one being hunted, So that's kind of like what I see with the fight. Now, let me talk about Stephen Fulton versus now Inoue. I know now Inoue's got more, power, and he's been working on different aspects of his game to face Stephen Fulton. A lot of people feel Fulton doesn't have the power to beat Inoue, so he thinks Inoue's power is the reign supreme. But you have to understand something. Power don't mean nothing if you can't land it. So I don't see, as much as Inoue have been accurate and really clinical with certain fighters, Stephen Fulton's not a fighter who you can easily hit like that. He blocks shots really well, slips and rolls and all that, takes steam off of shots so very, very well. Brandon Figueroa, who's very unorthodox and throws a lot of punches, couldn't really land the kind of punches he really wanted to land on Stephen Fulton to get him out of there. And that was mainly because of Fulton's defense, and then also in cooperation with that, his offense. So you have to look at all those factors when you're talking about boxing, you know what I mean? Crawford versus Spence is a fight that is quite amusing, because Crawford versus Spence is a fight where you guys better buy that pay-per-view. I don't care if you collectively do it, how you do it, but make sure that you get the pay-per-view and you're watching a paid-per-view fight, a fight where people are paid to see it. When you go and you can have a watch party, and that's how you can put a little bit of money towards paying to see the fight. But you should pay to see the fight. I'm hoping to get another phone, so I can have two phones so I can watch the fight and comment on it. I'm really hoping so. I wish both guys success. They're going to have times when they neutralize each other. There are going to be times when somebody really, is up and around and it's clear that this person won that round. So I'm looking to see all of those things. I think Spence has a lot of wrinkles, and he does make adjustments, as does Crawford. So I have them both making adjustments. The question is, We know it's going to be a battle of attrition, but who's going to come out of that battle of attrition, as a champ, the champ, and the face of boxing? That's the question. I'm going to catch you guys later. I am what you need. Peace.